Hello and welcome to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike, Dan, Jenna.
Yep.
Talking Bills, Bengals, week 9.
9, right?
Which is crazy. How are we already here?
You say it's crazy every week.
Yeah.
I do. I can't believe it. We're 9 weeks into the season.
We're halfway through the season at halftime of the game on Sunday.
Excuse me? Oh, yes.
Well, it used to always be like, you know, the midway point and all that, but now with the 17 games, so it's halftime of the game against the Bengals.
Really just struggling with my hair today.
Yeah, me too.
It's really, Dan knows.
Your hair looks great.
Your hair looks great. We're going to talk about the Bengals, this Bills team, what going back to Cincy means as well, our picks, our predictions. Busy show tonight, guys. I feel like more than normal, too.
You did
There was a lot of. There was a
Let me
lot.
just pat myself on the back.
There was a lot of talking points.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
This week.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that plays into the factor. There have been other times where we're like going into a game like, boy, you really kind of dig in to find something. Mm-hmm. This is everything between the magnitude of the game, the emotion of going back to Cincinnati, all of those things.
Yeah, you got the past, the present, and the future with these teams. Because we can talk about the present, obviously you got to win.
Yeah.
And the future, because
pretty good at this.
This game.
You have a future in this.
Maybe not that much.
Don't put that out there.
But
this
game's going to mean a lot for both of these teams. I mean, it's a conference game, you know, but and with the other games going on, Baltimore's got Seattle. It's a tough game.
Do you think the Bengals are watching this using it as motivation?
They use everything as motivation.
Man.
Yeah.
I get that.
And they were offended.
They were like,
and I took that personally.
Everybody in Buffalo said chicken wings were better than chili on pasta.
And by the way, they are. Ugh.
Have you tried? What are they called?
Skyline Chili?
Yeah.
No.
It's right below Permani Brothers.
I've never tried.
Where are the
Permani
Niners
Brothers
on your food scale?
Way at the bottom. Niners.
I will say the Skyline chili was not good.
Not good.
Personally, not a fan. Oh. I'm dropping things. Hold
on. Comment in as the show comes along. Silva says Dan's hoodie game is on point today.
Oh,
wow.
A compliment.
A compliment?
We got a compliment in the comments.
Hoodie compliment.
In
There it
this
is.
economy?
Wow.
Yeah, seriously. This early in the show, it can only go downhill from
It's
here.
good. The color. I like the color.
I think it's sharp. We'll end up fall. This may be the last fall hoodie, and then we'll move forward.
Why?
I've got maroon. I've got darker colors.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
But all right, we're gonna start the show.
We got the whole month of November for fall.
That's it.
Yeah.
Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome on into Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes, I am Jenna Cottrell. The Bills getting ready to face the Bengals. Sunday Night Football, another game in prime time for this Buffalo team, and Mike, an AFC rival no less. These two teams with a bunch of history between the two, and Sunday night marks another meeting.
Yeah, I want to see the game that really makes these two rivals. Because what we've had was a game that they couldn't finish for the obvious reasons of what happened with Demar. And then we had the playoff game where the Bills didn't show up. I mean, that really was the case.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if you want a rivalry, it's both teams at the same time. And Dan, there's a chance we see that on Sunday night because the Bengals are playing great and the Bills are trying to find themselves.
Yeah, and I think they're building off of what they were able to do on Thursday night against the Bucs. I know it's the Buccaneers, and they're not a great team, but still, offensively, the 24 points looked better than the 25 points against New England in the loss. It just isn't. And again, people talk about the eye test and the EPA and what the All-22 says. The Bills' offense looked like the Bills' offense we were used to seeing. You hope that continues. This spread them out. Josh Allen at the line of scrimmage, going up tempo. It was all the things that you all-pro quarterbacks and all-pro coordinators on your couch have been screaming for the last month. The Bills did it. It looked very good. I said that Ken Dorsey dressed up as Brian Dable for Halloween, and it worked out.
Yeah, and one quick thing on that, Jenna. You know what the Bills did not do, and they didn't do it against the Giants either? They didn't close out the game well. They got away with it against the Giants at the end, and they got away with it in the game against Tampa. They should have won that game by 14 points, and it would have been a blowout that they should have had. Instead, they had to sweat out a Hail Mary pass. You're not going to get away with that against a team like Cincinnati or the teams they're playing down the line. If you have a team down, you got to put them away.
Yeah, that's definitely a lesson to learn for this Bills team. And something actually that happened in that Tampa Bay game, Josh Allen going into the medical tent for a little bit. He came out, finished the game, obviously, but dealing with a shoulder injury. He did not practice on Wednesday of this week. A lot of panic, a lot of turmoil. What does this mean for Josh Allen? Allen was back to practicing later on this week, and he talked about the status of his shoulder injury and where he's at.
I wouldn't even call it pain, just discomfort in there. And so we're just trying to stay on top of it and get ahead of it while we can. And I don't think it's going to linger too much. But again, I think this was the best thing for me in making sure that, just trying to stay ahead of it and not let this affect it long term.
I think that's the key, trying to stay ahead of it. They had the mini bye. They had a little bit of extra rest, just trying to be smart and conservative in terms of Josh Allen and what his right shoulder means to both him, the team, and the offense.
It's interesting with the quarterbacks. They're all tough. Like Joe Burrow was out there injured and played through it, didn't play great. This is the third time Josh has been injured in the last 3 years, and he always plays through it. So when the guy's out there, part of you just automatically goes, it's Josh, he'll be fine. But he is dealing with something.
When we talked to him after the game on Thursday, and he said he was concerned when he went into the blue medical tent. He kind of just snuck in there when nobody was really looking, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, he runs out of it before the Bills go back on the field. I think this is something. Jenna, we talked after practice on Wednesday where we had the concern meter at, and I think we both said out of 10, 1 not being concerned, 10 being very concerned, a 4. Like this is something. He says it's pain tolerance, or he said just discomfort. He almost didn't even say it was pain.
Pain management.
Pain management. So, look, I also saw him throw a couple balls late in the second half, one to Gabe Davis that sizzled. So I don't think he's lacking anything. It's just a matter of, I think, him not practicing earlier this week is the team protecting Josh from Josh.
Yeah. And one thing they did do this past week was play with some pace and some energy, and it worked for them. The offense looked different. As Dan said, they came out, they played that way. Stephon Diggs and company all excelled in that game. They're looking forward to more of that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got a lot of guys on offense, smart guys, smart players that can move around, be in different spots, and being out there, we kind of figure it out as we're out there. Not too much anxiety, you know what I'm saying? Not too much thinking, more so just playing fast and playing what you see. So I feel like it brings Josh another layer of, being comfortable having guys out there, smart guys that can be in different spots, can run the whole tree and kind of like still get open. I think it gives them confidence and, it kind of showed.
I think he's talking about Gabe Davis there because Gabe usually runs the certain parts of the route tree. They had him doing everything. I mean, he's running slants. He's running across the middle. You don't see that as much.
I didn't see everything that we saw going up tempo was everything that we wanted to see.
Agreed.
We saw them put the pressure back on the Buccaneers defense, and hopefully they can do that against a Bengals defense that is weak in the secondary. They do give up yards through the air. But to dictate the pace, to dictate the tempo, Jenna, that is what I love the most because Diggs talks about it, like playing free. When you're almost not thinking, where they are, that's where they're comfortable. This is what this offense was built on.
Yeah. And my thing is, for so many weeks we've heard about, well, this team does this defensively well, so we're going to try and do this. It's like, no, if you are good and you are confident in what you can do, you are the ones that dictate, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to have this player do this. And the Bills were able to do that against the Bucs. And also, you mentioned Gabe Davis. The secondary receiver play was huge in that game. You saw guys like Gabe Davis step up, Khalil Shakir as well, Dalton Kincaid, who after the game, Sean McDermott just called him a wide receiver. He didn't even talk about him being a tight end. But having guys like that step up, I think that's just so huge for this team, especially where they're at in the season. And Mike, I mean, now there's also some more faces that are going to be out there as well for this team. The NFL trade deadline wrapping up this week. Leonard Fournette, another guy that, he can catch some passes too.
Look, what are you getting with Fournette? Yes, he's got some miles on him. He has been around, but you're also getting a guy who's played big in big games. I mean, he's playoff Lenny.
Playoff Lenny.
For God's sakes, right? And he is a guy. Now, are you expecting him? I see some people getting wound up. They think he's taking away the snaps from James Cook. No, I think he's taking away the snaps from the rest of the guys eventually. I don't know about this week, but I think he's that kind of player for them.
He talked this week about probably taking about 3 to 4 weeks to really get up to speed. Obviously, he talked about terminology, and unfortunately, we saw the negative side of that an acquisition at the trade deadline last year, Nyheim Hines, wasn't able to get up to speed. Now, Leonard Fournette's been around a little bit longer, has a lot of familiarity, worked out with Gabe Davis during the offseason, also was really close with Tre'Davious White. He says he's kept in touch with him. Him and their families went to Disneyland, actually, together this offseason. So he had some familiarity here. Now, the other elephant in the room when Leonard Fournette came here was back in 2018, when he was on the Jaguars. There was a pretty good sideline fight at the time. He was involved with Shaq Lawson and some of the other guys. We asked Fournette about if it was awkward when he got into the Bills locker room this week.
When you walk into the locker room, do you go find Shaq and say, like, hey, what's going on,
you know what's funny though? Our first time me and Shaq was last summer, since we fought in 2018, and we just laughed about it. Yeah, we laughed about it, man. That's all.
Who do you think came out on top in that scrum?
Well, I told him I won, but it's cool, I guess. But it is what it is.
Jordan Phillips was also a part of that.
Of course.
Fight. And he kind of talks about it, and he said Fournette and Shaq both got kicked out of the game for that scuffle, brawl, whatever you want to call it. And Phillips said that won them the game. Because if Fournette would have stayed in the game, he goes, there's no way we would have won. He goes, so we won the fight and won the game because Fournette got kicked out.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a high draft pick and a big part of the Tampa Bay Bucks winning a Super Bowl.
It'll take him maybe a couple weeks, like you said, to get acclimated, but I could see him being an impact player possibly for this Bills team.
Yep.
You talk about another guy being brought in, Rasul, obviously Douglas from the Packers. He was traded right at the deadline. Mike, he's someone to me that he's a guy that's been there, done that, veteran presence, has won a Super Bowl, and he kind of brings that kind of, solid experience to that cornerback room.
Look, he started out with the Eagles trying to find his way, and then he ended up going to Carolina for a little bit. So you figure Sean McDermott, Philly, and Carolina. He found himself in Green Bay. He made big plays. He's a physical player. I think he's a guy who's going to have a role right away. I don't know exactly how much time he's going to play, but he's a smart player. When they're in the zone coverages, you got to be careful in games. But this guy's been around enough that I think he'll have a role right away. He's basically replacing the spot of Trey White.
Correct.
Because Kaiir Elam's not going to be around.
Correct. Veteran, experience, and has played well in zone coverage, which is a lot of what the Bills run. And on top of it, former Panther.
Yeah, he is a former Panther.
And when you hear, it's tough. Sometimes when a player gets acquired, fan bases have their own thing and their own opinions on players. Hearing what the Packers locker room talked about, guys being emotional, that they lost a strong voice, a leader, a rock in that locker room, to me is very encouraging for the Bills to get him. He's under contract for next year. Sean McDermott was asked, you're adding a leader. And he goes, well, leadership comes with time.
Yeah.
He gives him time to be like that. Yeah. But again, this is a guy that has 10 interceptions over the last 3 years. He knows how to make plays when the ball's in the air. That's something that Brandon Beane was very attracted to.
Mike, I also love this. He asked what his initial perception was of Buffalo after being traded, and he's like, I know a couple things. The fans are crazy. They throw snowballs at the refs, and I'm here to help make this team better.
Well, that's all the right things. That's what he ended up saying. Hey, look, the last time they went to Green Bay and got a guy in the secondary was Micah Hyde. That worked out pretty well. You hope this guy can do anything close to that.
I would say so. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up after that, we're going to take a look at the Bengals and Joe Cool and what this Cincy team has been up to.
No.
Oh.
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 Hey, just a little. That's all right. A little TV.
Yeah.
You paraphrased Rasul.
Yeah.
Yes.
Couple of comments right away. Nikki G.
Nikki.
Uncle Dan had a rough week. We're not going to talk about it. We are moving on.
You have to address it.
It was really bad.
Okay.
It was really bad, and I loved the board last week.
Nikki G. I assume Nikki follows you.
Yeah,
on
I'm sorry.
Uncle Dan's best
Nikki,
bets?
my bad. We're going to bounce back.
You have to
We're gonna bounce
acknowledge it, because then I don't believe you if you
I feel like Tim Tebow when they lost that one game and he was crying. He's like, you'll never see another player work harder and work more than what. That's it.
Or she calling your shot?
I'm gonna.
Are you going keto?
No, I'm gonna heat up. But yeah, Nikki G. Fair to say, not great, Bob.
Okay.
Very, very rough.
You know what? This is a look in the mirror moment.
Really is.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Is Douglas gonna play? We're gonna need him. Some of the comments coming in.
Look, I
think you dress him.
I think he's going to dress in the game.
Yeah,
I think he's in some packages.
Yeah.
In a simple, hey, he's a veteran. Like, he's been around different systems before. That was another thing that they attracted, bringing him in at the deadline because he has experience. And they talked about his instincts. The fact that you can't teach some of the stuff that he just knows what to do.
Hey, look, the other thing is when Leonard Fournette says 3 to 4 weeks, that sounds great. The train's rolling in the NFL.
Yeah.
They will find a way. I don't know if he'll play this week, Fournette, but it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
You bring these guys in. Linval Joseph, you brought him in.
Yes, I did want
He's
to
a
mention
defensive
that.
tackle.
Massive human being.
I think he could play.
I agree.
Go in there, stop
Bean
the run.
said on Wednesday they were looking for a defensive tackle, hardcore.
Yeah.
Obviously later on signing Linval Joseph.
Good.
All right, we're going to do more of the show.
We will.
Well done, host.
That's it.
All right, welcome back to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike, let's talk about this Bengals team. Kind of started the season slowly. Joe Burrow dealing with a calf injury, but as of late, they've won 3 in a row.
Yeah, they've looked really good. I mean, the offense has come around. Burrow looks like Burrow. He's moving well. Jamar Chase has been a beast. All those things are going well for him, and their defense is forcing a bunch of turnovers. So while it's all been good for them, the problem earlier was losses. I mean, they're only 4-3, and they've lost 3 games in the conference, both games in the division. So they've got some catching up to do. But as far as Burrow is concerned, he's got a level of, I'll say, confidence.
Oh, I think it's confidence.
Borderline cockiness. And he's seen the way his team plays. They try not to get too far ahead of themselves, but they're feeling pretty good about the way things are going.
You don't really talk about it, but you put in the work to have success in those moments. We got really hardworking guys that are really confident in themselves, and you put in all that hard work for those moments to go out and make plays and win big games.
They're not going to be fooled by having a big road win and thinking, oh, we've arrived here in week 8, not even close. And so that is the benefit of having the team that we have, is they know how hard it's going to be going forward to continue this, and I know that they're willing to put in the work for it.
Oh, there's Micah popping up.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, so I think the Bengals have that mindset now because, look, that's why I said when you've lost 3 games in the conference and that division is stacked.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Pittsburgh's found ways to win games, and you've got Cleveland hanging in there.
Yeah.
And Baltimore's been off to a great start.
They had a game earlier in the season. I think when they were 1-3, they went to Arizona. And it was one of my best bets. I actually won that one for everybody that's dogging on my picks from last week. And it was like a must-win game. It was like that game was their Super Bowl. Falling to 1-4 would have been too hard to do. They went there, got the win, and things started to just turn in the right direction. This is a team, and it's different. The way that the Bengals are treated in the media and the way they carry themselves is different because they have been there. They have done that. They have gone to a Super Bowl. They knew that when Joe Burrow got to a point where he was mobile enough and that his calf was better enough to at least play at the level somewhere near where we know Joe Burrow can, they would come around. And this is exactly what they're doing. They have this chip on their shoulder. They carry around this arrogance no matter what narrative they make up in their own Mayberry head that everybody doubts them. And this is something I think that separates them and puts them on another level.
Yeah, I talked to Dan Horde, who's the play-by-play guy of the Bengals, about this. And I asked him about the way they started and where they are right now.
Yes, and it's as simple as Joe Burrow's right calf. Picture Josh Allen being a statue, not taking a single step in any direction on any play. That's what Joe Burrow was for the first 4 games of the season. He was the Statue of Liberty. He was a sitting target. And it's not like he's Lamar Jackson and sprinting around and rushing for 100 yards, but even something as simple as a step forward in the pocket, a couple of steps left or right to extend a play. That's what he's been able to do in the last 3 games, and the Bengals have won all 3. So there was no mystery for why they started 0-2 and 1-3. Joe Burrow was a shadow of what we've become accustomed to seeing over the last couple of years. And now that he's healthy and able to move around, the Bengals are one of the best teams in the NFL.
Kind of sounds simple, doesn't it? Get your quarterback healthy. But he has been that guy for them. Yeah. And when he's ready to play like he is now with Jamar Chase, they're really dangerous.
Mike, what do you like to say about schedules?
It's not just who you play, it's when you play them.
If they would have played them in the first 4 games of the season, we're talking about a completely different team.
Yeah.
And now with T. Higgins coming back, with all of their pieces starting to come together, Micah Hyde talked about it this week, knowing the challenges that they have. They have seen this Bengals team before, up close and personal, and they have put a beating on them. And he knows again this week it's going to be another tough challenge.
Joe's Joe, man. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So obviously you got to prepare for that. So, last week was a big indication of what they're able to do on offense with the weapons he has around him, and obviously the quarterback position and just the run game that they have. We know that's their team, that's their offense, and they go when Joe goes.
Yeah, and Joe's been going pretty good.
Yeah. These last 3 weeks, you've really seen, especially that last game against the Niners, Mike.
Yeah.
You saw this Bengals team. You figured, with Joe Burrow being injured, you're like, this is not the Bengals team that we're used to. At some point, they'll be able to kind of flip that switch. And it seems like that is exactly where this team is.
Yeah, and they have gotten the complementary football that they need because they've been turning over on defense. Now, I will say, the week before, Minnesota lit up the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe Niners aren't as good as people think. No. I always have to get in a shot on the Niners.
Have they passed the Cowboys?
No.
I'm just saying, you talk a whole lot more trash about the 49ers now than you do the Cowboys.
But the Bengals look, it's funny, they look like maybe the most complete team in the league at the moment.
Yeah.
But they got some catching up to do because of the losses at the beginning of the year.
And Dan, that's the thing, in the standings, this is a huge game for Cincinnati as well.
Massive. Absolutely massive.
Yep.
All right, we'll talk about it more. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about Demar Hamlin returning to Cincinnati, how the Bills feel about going back. Hello.
What do you got? Anything good?
Bullseye was asking who's going. It'll be Mike and I this week going back to Cincinnati. We were there last year.
How do you guys think you'll feel?
Weird.
It was one of the strangest experiences. It's funny. I said to you guys, when we were in Jersey, when we had the weather, and all the players and everybody was inside the tunnel, it felt briefly like Cincinnati, just because it was so odd that everybody was in there. But there's nothing quite like that part of it because of the silence in everything. And you were on the field for all of it.
Yeah, very strange. So and again, we'll get to what the players kind of said. I know we'll hear from Bean coming up if you're watching the show and things like that. But the fact of the matter is that I remember when Demar Hamlin said at training camp that there is no more normal. And I think going to this game, it will get to be a normal football game, but I don't think in the beginning it'll be a normal football game because of what happened in Cincinnati.
I'm interested in how Sean McDermott handles it with his team.
I think you got to talk about it.
Yeah.
You have to mention it, what happened. Obviously, it was a traumatic experience. And here's the great thing, obviously. We know how things have looked now, how triumphant the return is for Demar, getting back out on the field, playing football, all the good that's been done with CPR. But, yeah, I think it needs to be addressed because it could be triggering, considering
no doubt
going back to a situation like that. Or
it's a moment
environment like that.
None of those players had ever experienced before.
No, not at all.
Some people saying also, too, that Burrow hasn't faced McDefense, meaning that McDermott's. We'll see.
Yeah.
Looks pretty good against the Niners. So
we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the show. All right, welcome back. Let's talk about Demar Hamlin returning to Cincinnati. Obviously, a lot that happened when we were last in Cincinnati. You two were at the game in that. Demar was back to practicing once again this week. Dan, what a triumphant return for Demar. But I'm curious what you think and expect Sunday night to be as the players get back out on that field in particular.
I don't think it'll be a normal pregame. I think that would be incorrect to say that this is just another game. And while they will try and make it just another game, what's different, too, is Demar went through one thing. The players and his teammates went through another. Demar even said he doesn't remember much. The players, I'm sure, vividly remember that night. Mike, you and I were there. We remember it vividly. So it's a different level for Demar. If he's active, if he plays, if he's at the game, I think those are all questions that he can answer and how he's going to feel. When we asked players about it, Demar said he just wants the team to focus on getting a win. That is who Demar is.
Yeah.
But there is another level of they're humans.
Yeah.
Going back to a place that was a very traumatic event.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, Jenna. Sean McDermott, there's things you can criticize him for, play calls, what he does on defense, all those things. But understanding his players and knowing how to deal with his players is a massive strength of his. The players talked about it that day. And knowing the way Sean McDermott is, I think he's going to talk to them, and probably already has, about how they want to approach going into the building. Because the last time they left that building, they didn't know if their friend was going to be alive or not. So it was a strange, strange experience for them.
I agree when you were talking about McDermott and his ability to connect with his players. The
Yeah.
word that I thought of was approach. Maybe because I feel like he does a good way of trying to reach out and see what is the best way to reach you in these moments. And I think you're right. I think he has a plan. The entire Bills organization has a plan. And earlier this week, we got to talk to Brandon Beane just about going back to Cincinnati, those feelings, but also what it just means for the team going back to that environment once again.
A lot to be proud of, a lot to be thankful for. Thankful for how it turned out for Demar first and foremost, and proud of all the people on our staff. Cool to get to know a lot of the people in Cincinnati in those hospitals, and to be cool to give those people a hug and a handshake again, and thank you, and that kind of thing. But no, and what Demar's done with it is amazing.
All the CPR awareness, all the activities, people learning that life-saving skill. I think it'll be such a triumph for that team to go back. Obviously, a lot of emotion, but Mike, I mean, I think that's definitely going to be a moment pre-game that the team kind of has.
Yeah, because those memories are there with them, and they haven't been in this building, and it's just human nature that you're back there and you're going to feel that way. But this team handles those things. Look at how well they handled even getting back onto the field. So I think that'll be the case. And then it's about football, right? And it's about
turn
the
the
game.
page right to football.
Because they needed to do this. They met in the playoffs in Buffalo, and now they're meeting again, and it's a big game. So we went to our sponsor, Greg Connors. What do you think we're going to see Sunday night?
So the Bills being underdogs, they've earned it. They're sitting where they should be in this game. However, now it's time to step up and show what they're made of. So I think the Bills, it's a great test for them. It's going to be an exciting game on Sunday night, and I can't wait for it. I think the outcome of this game, Bengals 35, Bills 34.
Ooh,
yeah, lots of points.
Bills cover.
You would.
Just saying. Uncle Dan.
Just saying.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. You heard Greg's pick. Coming up after it, we're going to talk about our picks and
there
predictions.
It's puffy coat season, everybody.
Love it.
It's back.
We'll be right back. I love the puffy coat. I love it. The parka.
That tells
also
you
how
what they...
teeny the jersey looks.
It's amazing.
I think
the shoulder pads and everything.
Leonard Fournette wearing like biker shorts.
I know.
Yeah.
It was so funny. He did wear long pants on Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, he said it was colder.
Richard Davis said, tired of Dorsey giving Bills Mafia a false sense of security in his ability to call an entire football game.
You know what? I will give you
fair.
this. You talked about it. Last week, I thought he did a good job of calling plays and calling the game.
I agree.
I think he had a good feel. This week, the biggest thing for him is going to be adjusting to what the Bengals see. Because Lou Amorano, the defensive coordinator, is one of the best, if not the best in the league. He saw all those things on tape.
Yeah.
Now you have to adjust to that.
And that has not been a strong suit of Dorsey that we've seen. No, it's a big test.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are saying this is, payback for the playoff loss, all of those things. We asked Jordan Phillips about how he was going to handle the emotions of the game. And he said, look, you're going to kind of have to feel it out. DeMar's going to have to deal with his emotions. He's trying to just focus on a football game and a team that, as he so eloquently said, kicked their butts the last two times.
Yeah.
So there is, again, we talk about the emotions. We talk about DeMar, how it's not necessarily going to feel normal, at least in the beginning. It's a Bengals team that handled the Bills very comfortably twice last year. Well, one
quarter and then the game.
In that playoff game, it was very
They
obvious.
dominated. There's no doubt about it.
That's the thing, is the fast start. That is going to be huge for this team. Also to build some confidence as well for the Bills.
They do.
We're going to take a quick break.
Yeah, they do what the Bills should do.
All right, welcome back to the show. Bills, Bengals, Sunday Night Football, primetime AFC matchup.
Yep.
Dan, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's not necessarily fun picking this game, and I mean that in the sense of the Bills are underdogs for the first time in 27 games. This is the first time they've been underdogs since the playoff game in Kansas City in 2021. But this just seems like it's about when you're playing a team and who's hotter right now. I don't necessarily like doing this. I've picked the Bills every single week. I haven't always been right. But this, to me, seems like the toughest test the Bills defense will face, especially where they are weak at times at linebacker and in the secondary. I think the Bengals have enough firepower and are playing well enough right now to give enough problems to the Bills defense. I got this game high scoring. I think this one goes over the total, over 50 points, 34-27. I just don't know if the Bills have enough offense, and I don't know if I trust them enough after just one game to get it going.
The trust part is what really gets me. Because that part of where we saw the Bills offense get back into a rhythm, we saw them score points. But the thing is, we want to see that Bills offense get off to a faster start. And I feel like this Bengals team does such a good job in these recent weeks of doing that piece. And I think for that reason, I also have the Bengals winning this game. I think the Bengals take everything personally. They use that as an edge. They're talking about how the weather, how that's why Bills fans, they don't, it's a whole bunch. But you know what? I think this Bills team, they need to get back on track in terms of beating this team that is such a contender. But at the same point, I have the Bengals taking this one because I just think the Bengals are at a better point. They're more confident. They're playing better football. This is going to be a huge barometer for this Bills team.
Yeah, I've also picked the Bills to win every week this year, and they've let us down a few times. This time, I want to see them prove something to us. I don't see it at the moment. That could happen. They've got some things going their way. They've made some changes. We'll see what ends up happening. But until they show me that against a quality team on the road, which is what they're going to have to do in this one, I don't see it. So I've got the Bengals winning. Another one, close game, back and forth. If Josh Allen was healthier, maybe I'd feel a little differently. 27-23, Bengals winning.
To me, I think this is Lou Amorano against Ken Dorsey. That's my biggest concern.
We'll have plenty more coverage on the Buffalo Plus channel. For Mike Catalana, Dan Fetes, I am Jenna Cottrell. Thank you for watching Buffalo Plus.